And we are recording. Away we go. At least I believe we're recording. I'm going to, yep, I see that red light flashing. That's a good sign. So now I can officially welcome you to the 7 essential keys to embody love, live in wholeness, and awaken the Sophia within. And we're going to jump right in, and I want to tell you what you're going to get out of this class. First, I'm going to, if you guys want to, you can see each other in video. If you don't want to be on video, you can disable your video. You have the controls. And I have everyone muted right now, but on the right-hand side, there's a chat box. And so if we have any technical difficulties, you can let me know what's going on in there. And we'll just get right to this. So you're going to learn the 3 critical mindset shifts to free you from shame. I'm going to share with you the 3 simple daily practices to turn on your Sophia nature, because each one of us has it, so that you can become best friends with your body. And I'm going to share with you the deep reason why so many modern women struggle with feeling fulfilled. And the one thing you absolutely need for spiritual and sexual, sometimes I have a hard time saying that word, for spiritual and sexual wholeness. So you're going to walk away with a new way of seeing your true self, with simple start now tools that when practiced consistently will profoundly change your relationship with your body, your heart, and your soul. So please pay attention and treat these teachings like the treasure they are. These teachings have transformed my life and my experience with being a woman, and they can absolutely do the same for you. So who is this for? In some, it's for every woman desiring wholeness. You're in the right place if you want to discover the joyful, fun, and nourishing path to becoming more you, the you that is love. Because love is at the essence of all things, and it's at the essence of who you are. So if you buried or neglected your radiance, your sensuality, your healthy sexuality, and you don't want to do that anymore, you're in the right place. If you've had a hard time seeing yourself as a sensual woman or a sexy woman, you're in the right place. And if you know that you don't love yourself or your body the way that you want to, you're in the right place. And if you have any amount of fear, guilt, or shame around being sexy or fully alive because you got the message that it was up to you to protect yourself from men or protect men from you, then you're in the right place. And here's what I hear all the time. I hear this from my clients. They say, I don't know how to undo what was modeled for me. And they say it with a lot of pain and frustration. And I just want to encourage you and say, you're doing it. This is how we undo what was modeled for us. We don't blame our moms because they didn't get the right modeling either. We just get the tools we need to be the model for our daughters and for the next generation. So I'm Morgan. Many of you know me, but some of you may not. So I want to take a moment and introduce myself. I am a mama, a wife, and a lover of all things romance and adventure. And it's been a long road to get to where I am today. And a lot of people see me as being a woman who is joyful and free. But up until a few years ago, I really struggled with a truly debilitating sense of self-doubt and unworthiness. And this all stemmed from shame. And I also am a part of the Me Too movement. I have my own story with sexual abuse and rape and sexual trauma. And my sexual trauma actually came with spiritual trauma as well. So I didn't grow up going to the church or going to any church. My family wasn't religious, but I had a heart for God, and I really longed to know God. So when I was raped at 15 by 2 boys who were Christians and had brought me to their youth ministry, I believed the lie that it was my fault and that being female made me a temptress and I should be ashamed of myself. And no one helped me through this. So how I made sense of it was with the belief that my body was dirty and I was unworthy of even God's protection and God's love. And the next 10 years, as you can imagine, from the time I was 15 to the time I was 25, was wrought with suffering. depression, temptations for suicide, eating disorders, you name it. Long story short, it was motherhood, the birth of my son, that was the beginning of my healing, the beginning of coming home to my body and befriending my body and feeling safe there and knowing that I am worthy of love and that my body is worthy of love and it's good. So it was a journey of understanding true love and the heart of God. And for me, this connection between sexuality and spirituality is just so real. And it's been separated in our culture. And it's like we don't have conversations about these two things in one breath. But for me, it's very, very connected. And I needed redemption and healing in both places. And so this is the heart of what I do. Just to continue with my story, I ended up falling in love and getting married, and all the while just desiring a life of true romance and meaningful adventure. And I grew in my faith, and things were looking good. My husband adopted my son. We had another baby girl, but still I was haunted by shame and unworthiness and self-doubt, even after I got married, even after I reconciled with God, even after I had kids. So I began to ask the question, what does it take to be free? What does it really take to be free? And that question led me into deep inner healing, not only the sexual trauma, but a lifetime of fear and insecurity around my body and being a woman. So it's the question that's the reason why I dove into studies on sexuality, on love, on relationships, was to learn the latest in trauma healing and neuropsychology, as well as the ancient practices of sacred sexuality. All this while still within the context of being a Christian, because for me, my faith is really important, and I feel that I am most at home in mystical Christianity. And why I share that with you is because of my mission. So my mission is to embody love and live in wholeness and bliss, and to show other women how to do the same for the sake of freedom. And for me, that is the heart of my faith. So I teach women how to bring light to dark places and to love every lost piece of themselves back into wholeness. And this, is what inspires me most about who Jesus is. And this is why I care so much about what I do. So let's first talk for a moment about Sophia. Who is Sophia? Sophia is Greek for wisdom. She is found in both the Hebrew and Christian tradition, and really her presence is mentioned in every culture and religious tradition worldwide. There is a reason she is a woman. So you guys, feminine wisdom has a certain quality to it. The quality it embodies compassion, nourishment, delight, sensuality. So there are so much to wisdom and so many ways we can talk about wisdom. But sensuality is included in that wisdom. And I like to think of Sophia as the sexy and enlightened woman within each of us who is in perfect harmony with the energy of her sexuality and her spirituality. And for me, Sophia Loren is just a totem. She's an archetype. I love her. And so no matter how you relate to Sophia, what I want you to know is that Sophia is the queen of wholeness. And this is the big goal. Wholeness is the big goal because it's the key to everything else. Freedom, love, self-confidence, healthy relationships, sustainable well-being, the true thriving connection and manifesting of our heart's desires. And in this class, you're going to learn the secret to wholeness. This is the big goal. And practically speaking, what is wholeness? Practically speaking, wholeness is integration. So integration is a state of health and well-being in which limiting beliefs, trauma, and energetic blockages have been dissolved into love. So simply put, integration is when you are no longer divided. Wholeness is when you are no longer at war with any part of you. So here's the tragedy. We're meant for this. We are meant to thrive, to be integrated, whole, yet so few women are. We're living divided and cut off from core parts of our power, our vitality, our radiance, and our wisdom. We've gotten the message that we are broken and our bodies are broken, they're bad or they're dirty. And we've been shamed. We've been shamed and we felt the shame that will never be enough, or maybe we're too much. So why is this a tragedy? Because we are free, especially if we have the connection to our faith, a faith that tells us how free we are. If we're not living in that freedom, it's a tragedy, because we don't actually have to live this shut down inside. Shame has nothing to offer us anymore. One of my favorite poets, Mary Oliver, says, "Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?" So please, ladies, don't tell me you're going to squander it on old ways of thinking and doing things that are keeping you trapped in worry, shame, and self-doubt and the lies of unworthiness. And I know you don't want that, and that's why you're here. So let's talk about who is thriving. If it was never modeled for you, if thriving as a woman, just you never saw it growing up, that's okay. Most likely it wasn't modeled for your mom or your grandma either, but we can learn to do this. We are learning to do this. So women who are thriving are women who are living from their wholeness, from their feminine wisdom. Women who have awoken the Sophia within. Women who have become the queen of wholeness in their own life. So what do Sophias know that other women don't? And here's where I'm going to share with you the 3 critical mindset shifts. So a mindset is a way of seeing and understanding. A mindset can either imprison you or set you free. And if you want to be free of shame, especially religious shame, these are 3 very important paradigms to adopt. Number 1, you're already whole. Within you is a hidden wholeness. It's never been touched. It's alive and well. And so you don't have to create anything new within you. You just need to return. There's just a lot of gunk sitting on top of this wholeness, but it's there and it's intact and you can return there. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. You're completely normal and you're perfectly whole already. Number 2, your sexuality belongs to you. This is so important because whether you were raised in the church or just raised in our culture, we've all gotten the message that our sexuality is for someone else to enjoy. It's a performance, it's an obligation, it's a duty, it's a way to get validated. It's for men. But no, your sexuality has always belonged to you first and foremost, and really adopting this mindset begins to change things. And number 3, the mindset that delight is a spiritual practice. Delight, fun, enjoyment. Another word for delight is pleasure. So pleasure being a spiritual practice instead of something that brings us shame and makes us feel guilty, that makes us feel like we're being selfish. So self-care, we're all learning the importance of self-care and really taking care of our bodies and our emotions. But taking care of our sexuality is important too, our sensuality, and really making time for the things that light us up and choosing that, yes, it is really, really important to bring delight, to bring joy, to bring bliss and pleasure into every single day, because this is an experience that brings me closer to my true self. So Sophias know that wholeness is the key to everything else. Remember that wholeness is about integration. So we're going to talk about the secret key to integration that you absolutely need in just a moment. But first I want to teach you and give you 3 simple practices to help you really make these critical mindset shifts feel natural and your own. These are practices to help you start awakening the Sophia in your body, not just your mind. So here are the 3 practices. These are things you can do starting right now. And these essential practices will turn on your Sophia nature and help you become best friends with your body. So the first one is to delight in your senses. Really, from the moment you wake up in your day, how much beauty can you bring in? You have 5 senses, and so that means bringing in things that are beautiful to look at, beautiful to taste and to smell and to touch. Really bringing beauty into the things you listen to, always having music on or bird sounds or nature sounds. And the thing about delight is that it really does change our brain chemistry. And what they found is that to imprint a positive emotion, we need to hold on to it for about 15 seconds. 15 seconds is the minimum amount of time it takes to imprint that positivity. So for instance, if you're walking down the street and you see something absolutely beautiful, maybe it's the sky, maybe it's a sunset, maybe it's the moon, to pause there and not just acknowledge it and move on, but to pause there and to really delight in it. You may even want to look at your watch and challenge yourself just to stay in that state of delight and appreciation and just awe for 15 seconds. It may seem like a very just wild amount of time to spend looking at the sun or the moon, but it's really important, and it's a practice that we can discipline ourselves into doing, and this we can bring it into the foods we eat, that before we take a sip of our coffee or enjoy a meal is to really just take in the beauty of it, take in the sense, bring the coffee cup up to your nose and just delight in it for 15 seconds, and this will do such good things for our brain. And it'll help us enter into the present moment where we can actually be embodied, where we can actually be connected to ourselves and our wisdom. So how do we get connected to the present moment? We connect through our five senses. We feel the ground beneath our feet. We notice what we're hearing, what we're seeing, what we're tasting. This is what brings us back to the present moment. The second practice is to shake your temple. So maybe you've heard that your body is a temple, and it is. It's a temple for wild, fun, playful, ecstatic dance. It's not a stuffy church. So what I want you to do is to dance. Dance not as a performance, but dance as medicine, and do it in your birthday suit. Get undressed and just have at it. Just shake, 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 and let the music move through you. So when we can begin to give our bodies permission to express our emotions, something really wild and amazing begins to happen. Our brain comes online, and on so many different levels, we start making these connections, and we start feeling more ourselves, more whole, more present. And when we feel this, we get this sense of being empowered and being worthy of love and being worthy of having a voice. And so one of my favorite practices is just to check in with how I'm feeling that day, and then to turn on a playlist that really honors that feeling. And sometimes it's sadness, and sometimes it's anger, sometimes it's joy, sometimes it's reverence. Whatever it is, I turn on that playlist, I get naked, and I dance. And maybe it's for 5 minutes or for 20 minutes, but I just dance my truth. And so when we can do that with our body, it's doing a couple things. If we can do it naked, it's also signaling to us that it's safe to be naked and that we are worthy of walking around without our clothes on, and that we can honor our body in whatever shape it's in as this vehicle for life and expression and emotion and joy and just energy. So I love the practice of dancing naked. And if you're not quite ready to dance naked, then just dance, period. And remember, this isn't dance as performance, it's dance as medicine. So just shake, shake, shake. The third practice all of us can be doing is the practice of tenderly touching yourself. So I invite you right now just to bring your hands to your face, and with your fingertips, just gently caress your temples, your jaw, all the way down your neck, across your collarbones. Maybe trace your silhouette, the bridge of your nose, your lips, your hair. Run your fingers through your hair. This is a practice that informs our nervous system that we're worthy of love. It tells us at a very deep level that we're safe, that we're worthy of gentle, loving touch. So even just bringing your fingertips to your shoulders and to your arms, or bringing your hands down to your legs and just, tenderly touching yourself, tenderly touching your body. It's so, so healing. And this will begin to awaken that hidden wholeness within that's just waiting to feel safe, that just wants to know that she is accepted and that she is loved for exactly who she is right now, without having to lose any weight, without having to change one thing about her. And tenderly touching yourself is way more effective than affirmations in the mirror, because when we speak those words to ourselves, it's great, but it's only working mostly on the level of the cortical mind, just the most top level of our mind. It's not really getting into our body. But when we tenderly touch ourselves and let our hands really communicate love and tenderness and acceptance and belonging, our body and our unconscious mind are getting that at a very deep level. So we'll talk about the importance of the unconscious mind in just a bit. So there you have it. Those are 3 practices, and I love this line from a poem from St. Catherine of Siena. She says, "I have seen what you want, it is there, a beloved of infinite tenderness." And my invitation to you is to see your own hands as this instrument of tenderness, that you are a beloved, and that you can bring so much tenderness to yourself. So I also want to share with you 3 bonus or advanced practices of the embodied Sophia. So we have breath work, self-pleasuring, and the jade egg. So these are advanced practices that you can look forward to doing when you feel ready. There's no rushing into it. You'll get so much out of those first 3 practices. But when you're ready to really start amping up your experience of womanhood and your experience of embodiment, these, I don't know any more powerful practices than these. So breath work. So breath work is a safe way to drop below the level of cortical control. And there are different breath work, has different energetic effects. And there are breath work practices to nourish, ground, awaken, break through, clear, and release things on the deepest level and layer of our consciousness. So breath work techniques teach that, it's okay. It's safe to drop below the level of control, the level of having to have everything figured out, the level of chatter and a lot of noise that most of us spend our day in, the level of worry and anxiety. Breath work brings us in deeper into the body and helps us get access to the unconscious mind. So it's really important to know what you are doing and why you are doing it. So you probably learned some breath work, maybe through a meditation class or a yoga class or a mindfulness class, and maybe even experienced some of the benefits of slowing down your breathing. So one of the techniques I teach almost every client is a breathing technique that helps them come home to themselves, to help them feel safe in their body. And there are so many amazing breathing techniques that we can learn that aren't complicated, but we can weave them into our day, and they can really help nourish us, ground us, awaken us, and help us break through some of the unconscious blocks. So another practice is self-pleasuring. And self-pleasuring is just a little more intense than tender touch. It's really not anything different. It's on the same spectrum, but it is something we don't talk about, or something that has been just covered with shame. It's not something we were ever encouraged to do or to explore with as a woman, or even talk about now. But by bringing light, by bringing consciousness to this dark and shameful place, this can do wonders for a woman's well-being. For one, it helps her really to feel that her sexuality is good and that it belongs to her. It also helps her develop more pleasure and intimacy that she can then share with her partner. It also helps to heal. And this is how I've experienced this practice. It's that it's really the most profound thing to help me heal, deeply heal the sexual trauma. And whatever trauma may be sitting on top of your potential for pleasure, for bliss. So done with intention, meaning a lot of awareness, a lot of consciousness. It's a way of cultivating supreme self-love, presence, compassionate attention, and spiritual truth. And like I said, for some women, and me included, it's the most effective way to heal from sexual trauma. So the third advanced practice is the jade egg. So the jade egg was once the secret of Chinese royalty in antiquity. It was something just for queens and concubines, used so they could stay vibrant and radiant and healthy and youthful and beautiful. So the jade stone, it's a stone shaped like an egg that goes into the vagina to work the pelvic floor muscles more effectively than Kegels alone. And it has tremendous physiological and biological benefits, from healing after childbirth to vulvodynia and chronic numbness to low libido. And it has emotional and spiritual benefits as well. For one, it is amazing for learning how to come home to your body and to love your body, for experiencing better orgasms, or maybe your first orgasm, and for experiencing your sexuality as something sacred, and just all around energy and joy booster. It's an amazing, amazing practice. So to review, the bonus advanced practices of the embodied Sophia are breathwork, self-pleasuring, and jade egg. And what all these practices have in common, both these three and the first three I shared with you, from delighting in your senses to dancing to tender self-touch, all these practices are embodiment practices. Embodiment practices is where it's at. And embodiment practices is what is missing currently from our self-care. It's the one thing, you guys, that we absolutely, absolutely, absolutely need if we want true wholeness, both spiritual and sexual. If we want to really live our faith, we have to be embodied as women. If we want to experience the heights of sexual bliss and connection and intimacy, we have to be embodied as women. So embodiment practices is how we learn to live from love as a felt experience, not just an idea. To understand the importance of embodiment and why it works to bring about transformation on such a deep level, we have to understand a little bit about the brain. First, let's enjoy this dance by these three cuties. So how the brain works. We have the prefrontal cortex. This is a really simplified model, but I feel like it's really helpful to understanding why embodiment practices in particular are so important. So in this model of the three-part brain, we have the prefrontal cortex, and that is in charge of reason. It's really where we spend most of our time. It's the logic, it's the strategy, it's, where we spend thinking about what we're going to eat for dinner and strategizing this and that. Then we have the limbic system, and it's the storehouse of memory and emotion. And then the deepest layer of the brain is the primal brain, and it's in charge of survival. So your limbic system and your primal brain form the unconscious mind. So, and when you can get here, when you can go here, you get access to the root of your issues. So the unconscious mind is super important to talk about and to address. It is 30,000 times more powerful than your conscious mind. And so learning how to befriend it, for one, and get it on your team is crucial if we want to make changes that last, if we want to experience actual transformation. So it controls 90 to 95% of our behavior, scientists say. And if you've ever had the experience like Paul in Romans, where he says, I do not understand what I do. For what I want to do, I don't do. But what I do, I hate. This is the unconscious mind at work. So every aspect of our lives plays out on two levels. One conscious, which we are aware of, and the other unconscious, which remains hidden from us. And scientists are increasingly convinced that how we experience the world, our perceptions, our behavior, our identity, is largely driven by the unconscious subconscious mind. So some facts about the subconscious mind: it's located throughout the entire body. It's not just in our heads. It's in charge of all the major bodily functions. So you think about breathing, our heartbeat, our hormones. It also stores all of our emotions, our memories, our behaviors, our knowledge, both in our personal lives and in the collective history. If you've heard of the collective unconscious, this is it. We're all connected to each other in this body of unconscious mind where we have this shared history. And one of the most interesting things to know about the unconscious mind is that its job is to try to protect us from pain. So there are 3 ways the unconscious mind tries to protect us from pain. And these are common emotional survival strategies. And I want you to pay attention and tell me, and maybe share in the chat box if you're brave, which one do you resonate with? And which one is like, oh yeah, that has my number. So the first way our unconscious mind tries to protect us is by resisting negative emotions. So we all grow up getting the message that it's not okay to express certain emotions. Girls don't get to be angry because they have to be nice. And as we grow, we learn, i.e. our unconscious mind is programmed to suppress our anger because being yelled at or punished is painful, and our unconscious mind wants to protect us from that pain. So we end up limiting our emotional range and resisting whatever we learned was a negative emotion. So desire, you guys, is often coded as a negative emotion. So if we struggle with feeling desire, oftentimes it's because we're resisting it at some deep level because we've been programmed that it might bring us pain. Another way the unconscious mind tries to protect us is by clamping down. So if you've experienced any trauma when you were young, even in the collective, so it may not be your trauma, it may be trauma that happened to your mom, your grandmother, or somewhere in your lineage. These memories are stored in your unconscious mind throughout your body. So sexual trauma is often stored in the pelvic bowl. And in order to prevent these memories from surfacing to your unconscious mind will frequently clamp down on that memory, literally constricting and contracting the smooth muscles or internal organs where the memory is stored. So I work with women that have vulvodynia, and this is something we're working with. It's like how to bring a lot of safety to the body, and so the unconscious mind can release where it has been clamping, and there can be surrender and joy and bliss where there once was just fear. A third way the unconscious mind protects us is by forming limiting beliefs. So limiting beliefs are mental judgments about ourselves and the way the world works. And they usually get ingrained in childhood and are formed around faulty, incomplete, or misunderstood information. And they are very, very sticky. They live in the body and not just our head. And this is why affirmations and counseling alone don't often work. But with the right embodiment, coaching, and techniques, you can clear out the negative emotions, the traumatic memories, and the limiting beliefs that are keeping you from the life you are ready for. And here is the process. Sorry, I'm going through all this. Here's this thing. We just love ourselves into wholeness. That's the way. This is how we do it. This is the only way we do it. This is the only thing that will bring about true and lasting change, is love. So they have 3 core human needs. Every single person on the planet, every one of us needs safety and love and belonging. And you can consider your unconscious mind a totally independent person who also needs these things. Your unconscious mind needs to know it's loved, needs to know it's safe, and needs to feel like it belongs to you, that you accept it. So you can genuinely give yourself these things. And we all need to learn how to do this, because until you can genuinely give these things, these 3 things, safety, love, and belonging to yourself, to your unconscious mind, it will always be on lockdown and you will remain on the hamster wheel. So the old way of doing things, which is basically to not befriend the unconscious mind and to pretend that it doesn't have the effect or power over us that it actually does, is that we just embrace our spirituality and our faith and our religion, and we repress, deny, and reject our sensuality, our sexuality, and we do this in order to feel safe and belong to our spiritual tribe. Or we embrace our sexuality, our humanism, our humanity, our hedonism, and then we repress, deny, or reject our spirituality in order to feel safe and belong to ourselves. So those are 2 big ways that we learn to do things. These are old ways of doing things. And the third big way is that we divide ourselves and we check out and we become someone different when we have sex. We become someone different around different groups of people. And we live fractured and split off and in our heads and disconnected from our body. And this is so sad because it doesn't work. It doesn't bring us wholeness. It doesn't bring us joy. It doesn't give us life to the full. It doesn't help us to thrive. The new way of doing things, you guys, is to love every part of yourself into wholeness. To be willing to find any unconscious blocks keeping you from the life you are made for. This is the new way, is to become fully embodied as a woman. So, embodiment. This is the magic. To review what we've covered so far, we've covered a ton. So we've talked about the 3 critical mindset shifts to free you from shame, especially religious shame. We talked about 3 simple daily practices that you guys can start doing right now to turn on your Sophia nature and to really befriend your body. And you also know now 3 advanced practices you can look forward to supercharge your healing and awakening. And we also talked about the importance of embodiment and why it's the one thing you absolutely need for spiritual and sexual wholeness. Until we are embodied, until we can embody our spirit, our faith, our sexuality, our sensuality, we're always living divided. The superpower that does this is love. It's love. It's always going to be love. So bottom line, it's not your fault if you felt so stuck. Your unconscious mind has just been trying to keep you safe, and what's worked in the past is now outdated. Now you're a woman. What worked as a child doesn't work anymore. You're a woman, and it's time to update that programming. You can get free. This is the thing. Yes, you can get free and live in the radiance of your own Sophia's wisdom. You have the power to upgrade this operating system of your unconscious. We have the tools. You can become the queen of wholeness in your life. And loving yourself into wholeness is the only way. It's the way we awaken. It's the way we transform. It's the way we thrive. And it can't be a mental thing, you guys. It can't just be something we read about or hear someone else talk about. It has to be embodied. We need the practices. And lasting transformation happens by this embodiment practice, by bringing light to dark places. And you don't have to do this alone. You do this with support. So in this day and age where the internet, we have all the information we need, right? We have all the information we could ever need at our fingertips. And we often feel more lost and overwhelmed than ever. But information alone can't free us, and we know that. What we really need is transformation, because information can't get us out of our old patterns of thinking and old ways behavior. We need transformation. And historically, you guys, that has always happened in relationship. Being in relationship with a mentor or a teacher who has walked the path before you and who can speak directly into your life. So if you want help healing and integrating and becoming whole, you work with someone who is trained in embodiment, someone who has studied the tripart system of mind, body, and energy. And equally important to their professional training is someone you feel safe with, someone you trust, doesn't just have the head knowledge, but has the heart knowledge too. Someone who has done the deep transformative work around their own sexuality so that they can hold you in that process. If they haven't gone all the way through their own work, they may carry judgments and shame and project that onto you without realizing it. So who you work with and who you choose to work with is really, really important. And they should be super compassionate and supportive and safe and encouraging person for you. And they should also help you focus on primal neuronal repatterning. We got to get to the level of the unconscious mind. And they should have levels of compassion, empathy, and professionalism to help you overcome any fear and self-doubt and other obstacles that will try to kick you off the path. And they should coach you through every single piece of the solution you need and walk with you to support you in taking action on every single part. They should be your biggest cheerleader, because when it's structured this way, transformation is inevitable, you guys, because love is the superpower. And when you have someone helping you embody love, and live in love's wholeness, you can finally become the woman you're made to be. So now you have a choice. You don't have to do this alone. I'm here. I'm your big sister, and I would love to walk with you on this path.